Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to today's tropical weather outlook for July 3rd, day before July 4th holiday weekend, 2026. Today in the tropics, we're going to take a look at things that are going on in the Pacific because we have a monster typhoon that is exploding. It is already approaching, if not at Category 5 intensity. I believe it's Typhoon Bavi. And this is very likely going to be a very strong and intense storm, and probably going to be one of the most strongest storms of the entire year. Wouldn't surprise me. We're looking at a very intense situation unfolding, especially in the Western Pacific, but we'll also take a look at the tropics as well in the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific too, which right now things are looking quiet, but we'll get to that later. But I do want to start off though by taking a look at where all the action in the globe is right now, and that's kind of why we're really focusing in on the Western Pacific right now, because again, that's where all the action is. We have two systems here: Tropical Storm Maisak, which is in the South China Sea, moving into China and the Hong Kong area, I believe, and also going to be near northern Vietnam too. And this is probably not going to be a strong storm. This is very close to land. So no threat in terms of extreme impacts from this storm here, but Bavi, on the other hand, already a super typhoon, Category 5 intensity, yet another Category 5 storm for the Western Pacific, maximum sustained winds at 140 knots with a minimum pressure of 921 millibars, and this is only going to get more intense from here on out. Again, very likely to become yet another powerful high-end super typhoon, which will more than likely be the contenders for one of the strongest storms of the year this year, even after the already strong storm we had from back in April. And this is what happens in the Western Pacific during super typhoon year, or during super El Nino years. We get a lot of super typhoons during super El Ninos, and it looks like this year is starting to shape up to be exactly like that. So let's take a look at Bavi right now, and you can certainly see why it is already a Category 5. It has a well-defined eye, a very nice and circular CDO, which is beginning to stabilize and beginning to become more circular. And sometimes one of the biggest indications, especially in terms of a strength of a tropical cyclone, is the circularity, I guess, if that's a word, circularity, of the CDO. If the CDO is very round and circular, then that indicates that the storm is likely at very, very high upper end intensity. And Bavi is starting to gain that look. It already has a very clear eye, and the eye is just going to continue to become more circular, and probably as this intensifies, contract even further. And this is expected to become even stronger than what it is right now. The Joint Typhoon Warning Center predicting, first of all, that this will likely stay a super typhoon and a very high-end, upper-end Category 4 to maybe even Category 5 for potentially the next few days here. This forecast goes all the way out till July 8th, so 5 days from now. So this is the 5-day forecast, very similar to National Hurricane Center going out to 5 days. And even then, they still forecast that at 5 days from now, this will be at 135 knots. So literally on the upper end of Category 5 to Category 4 to Category 5 intensity for the next few days, and probably in just a matter of a few short hours as this continues to intensify, this will indeed reach the upper end of Category 5 intensity. Right now, peak expected of 150 knots. Wouldn't surprise me if it goes even higher. And taking a look at all of the ensemble forecasts, this is from the GEFS, and just take a look at all of the ensembles here, every single one of them indicating a very strong storm. First of all, the ensemble mean for the pressure is below 930 millibars at 928, with multiple points here. So, I mean, you would imagine that there are probably a multitude of ensembles that make this storm even stronger, and I wouldn't be surprised if we even get below 930 and probably even below 920. Maybe if this storm is intense enough, we see this dip into the sub 900 category in terms of the pressure as well. And taking a look at what the GFS shows here, I believe the GFS probably indicates that happening. Well, certainly, though, over the next few days here, this is going to remain strong. But probably what will be the most important and astonishing aspect of this is going to pretty much move on off to the westward here for the next 5 or so days. This is not going to be one of those super typhoons that are, tremendous eye candy, but they turn out to sea and are of harm to nobody. And I believe that's how the super typhoon from April, I forgot the name of it at this point, but that's how the super typhoon back in April was. It turned out to sea, didn't really affect anybody. That's not going to be the case with Bavi here. It's going to move straight on off to the west-northwest, and eventually, in a week's time, once we get towards this time next week, Friday, Taiwan and potentially China might be at pretty serious risk from whatever left of MISAC makes it over, which by the time it gets to the western part of the Pacific here and closer to Taiwan and China, this will probably still very likely be a very intense typhoon. But beforehand, this might also impact the Mariana Islands as well, which is the U.S. islands, U.S.-owned islands out here in the Pacific, and it includes Guam too. Guam is a part of the island chain, which is a U.S. territory. And we're probably going to see significant impacts to the Mariana Islands here, the Northern Mariana Islands in the Western Pacific, and that's probably going to happen as we head to the very end of the week, Sunday night, and into Monday, and probably going to be a day ahead their time, so probably like Monday night or so out there in the Mariana Islands. So this is going to bring significant impacts to many people. This is not going to be one of those harmless out-to-sea typhoons. So we're going to have our hands full here in the Western Pacific for the next several days and probably up to the next week and maybe even beyond. And it's also astonishing, too, that this is only July and this is happening in the Western Pacific. So you absolutely know that things are going to get cranking here, and we're probably going to see a very, very long season ahead of what we're probably multiple very strong and intense typhoons, which will probably follow suit later on in the year. So if you're in the Western Pacific, especially Philippines, Taiwan, Japan, all those areas here, including China, you're going to want to buckle up here over the next few months. But especially those in China, Taiwan, and the Northern Mariana Islands, you're going to want to keep a very close eye on Bavi over the next few days here, as it'll likely blow up into a monster. And really quickly, before I move on to the rest of the discussion, and oh great, right as I tried to bring up here the model, is it going to work? Yes, there we go. Finally, the model didn't malfunction on me, but I wanted to show you what the European shows because pressure-wise, because it is quite astonishing and just goes to show just how much of an intense storm this is going to be. Look at that. 887 millibars by Tuesday morning here, and this is already going to be as it passes to the west of the Mariana Islands. Likely going to be dealing with a strong storm, 884 millibars. So we first had 887, and then 884 on the European. Now, could they potentially be overdoing this? Possibly. I would hope that the European is overdoing the intensity here, and I believe sometimes the European can overdo the intensity with these storms, but I think this should already tell you that Bavi is very likely going to be an intense storm, and this is 117 to 120 hours out, and we're still dealing with a sub-900 millibar storm here in the Pacific, so that just highlights the fact that Bavi is going to be a very long-lived, intense event, and just something that's going to keep the Western Pacific on its heels here over the next several days. Moving on, though, and really quickly going to move on to close out here the rest of the discussion. In the Atlantic, nothing much happening over the next 7 days. Things are a complete and total snooze fest in the Atlantic right now. The Eastern Pacific, though, maybe might have some more development that'll try within the next week here. We'll take a look at that in the model in a little bit, but we have a low chance there right now. But even then, the Eastern Pacific is still kind of sluggish right now and kind of lagging behind, but maybe we'll see that catch up here very soon. Again, we'll take a look at the models in a little bit. Here's a satellite shot of the Atlantic right now, and this pretty much just highlights why things are quiet. Well, we do have a few tropical waves here throughout the tropics in the Atlantic, especially in the eastern Atlantic too. Probably a tropical wave out there, probably a tropical wave in the eastern Caribbean, and then, interestingly enough, what seems to be a pretty aggressive, strong tropical wave moving off the coast of Africa. And I mean, we've, interestingly enough, had, quite a few of these strong tropical waves which have advanced from Africa this year, but obviously, given that conditions are not favorable in the Atlantic, they would just not develop. But looks like another strong tropical wave moving off the coast of Africa now, but again, probably not going to develop and be of much of any concern. And you can see here the waves in the Atlantic right now. Yep, the two waves that are there, there's one in the eastern Caribbean and one out here in the eastern Atlantic, and then there's probably going to be yet another wave that'll be designated by tomorrow or so as it moves off the coast of Africa, but nothing expected to develop right now. And just taking a look at the models here, first off with the GFS, taking this out to the next 7 days, you could see, again, nothing tries to get going. Maybe a little bit of vorticity here in the northern Atlantic, and maybe that's, some of the development that we're going to have to rely on this year is pieces of energy that try to develop and become quick spin-ups that add to the names a little bit in the far northern Atlantic this year, given that the deep tropics will definitely be more than likely hostile, very hostile for most of the season. But other than that, not much else of interest happening in the Atlantic. And then the Pacific, if the GFS will load and actually get to it, there we go. Yeah, well, there you can see that there is something here in the Eastern Pacific, a piece of energy that tries to consolidate, but more than likely will probably be yet another weak storm, and then looks like another kink of energy here, strong trough, maybe a low-level center that tries to develop with some vorticity 7 days out. But beyond that, Eastern Pacific is, as I've said before, as I probably said in my video discussion 2 days ago, the signs are there that the Eastern Pacific is trying to, spark some, sparks. Well, the sparks are flying in the Eastern Pacific, but the fire is not starting, if that makes sense. The sparks are flying, but it still has not successfully started the fire. So things are going to remain quiet-ish, sluggish right now in the Eastern Pacific, at least for the foreseeable future. But maybe we will see if whether or not we get towards the end of the month, that begins to change. But I'm pretty sure that'll definitely happen by then. And we will see the Eastern Pacific kick into full gear, just like the Western Pacific is well underway in doing so. And meanwhile, on the other hand, the Atlantic remains quiet, and it's probably going to remain like that for the foreseeable future. And I think that is to be expected, and obviously it is a good thing. But obviously we know how that can change, and it probably will change at some point, even in this year. But of course, more than likely not going to happen now. With that being said, though, I'm going to wrap it up here because it looks like there's not really much help happening elsewhere in the tropics. So I think here right now is a good place to end. Obviously, if anything wild pops up, we'll obviously continue to update you on that. And of course, we will keep an eye out on Typhoon Bavi here as it continues to explode and probably will make its mark in tropical cyclone history as a quite intense storm. And, definitely probably make, history in the Western Pacific as well. It's really looking like it'll be this type of storm. And once again, probably going to see these kind of storms pretty often throughout the rest of the year in the Western Pacific. So get ready. But thanks for watching today. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and hopefully enjoy the rest of your weekend as well, and enjoy your July 4th celebrations. We'll have an update tomorrow, so hopefully I'll see you then. But if not, hope you guys enjoy your July 4th. Stay safe, stay cool, because I know for many people, there's very intense heat, and same situation. We're definitely experiencing that here in New York City. So stay indoors, stay cool, stay safe, and I'll talk to you guys again very soon.